Hello and welcome. I'm Suma Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. Long lines form as Bangladeshis begin voting in a high-stakes election following the 2024 ouster of longtime Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Counting starts this evening with results expected by Friday as a referendum runs in parallel and the main contest pits BNP against a Jamaat-led coalition. Police say an 18-year-old woman killed her mother and a stepbrother before opening fire at her former school in Tumbler Bridge, British Columbia. Canada, 9 people, including the suspect who died by suicide, are dead in one of Canada's deadliest mass shootings. The motive is still unknown. Russia fires drones and ballistic missiles across Ukraine overnight, targeting energy systems and injuring at least 7 people in Kyiv, Dnipro, and Odessa. Ukrainian officials say hundreds of weapons disrupt power, heating, and water as a massive attack hits buildings in the capital. President Donald Trump says talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu produced no definitive agreement in Iran. Netanyahu says Israel's security must be protected and signals no clear U.S. commitment to expand talks beyond Iran's nuclear program. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel joins President Donald Trump's Board of Peace during talks in Washington. Images show Netanyahu signing the accession document after meeting Secretary of State Marco Rubio, confirming Israel's membership. An advisor to Iran's supreme leader says Tehran will not compromise on its missile capabilities amid ongoing talks with the United States. Ali Shamkhani calls the missile program non-negotiable during events marking the anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. Palestinian protesters rally in Melbourne on the final day of Israeli President Isaac Herzog's visit after clashes in Sydney and demonstrations in Canberra. Protesters unite across the country as Prime Minister Anthony Albanese hosts the visit following a deadly Sydney shooting. The U.S. House votes 219 to 211 to reject President Donald Trump's tariffs on Canadian goods, with 6 Republicans joining Democrats in a rare rebuke. The measure now moves to the Senate but faces a likely presidential veto if it reaches the White House. Now for this hour, we start with the breaking news coming in from Bangladesh Army. Bangladesh Army has conducted a lathi charge at a polling station in Brahmanbaria. The incident was reported after complaints of both capturing emerged from the location. Security personnel moved to disperse the crowd and restore order at the polling center. Local sources say voting was temporarily disrupted following the clash. Election officials have yet to issue a detailed statement on the incident. Authorities say the situation is now under control as investigations continue. Now for this, we welcome Ms. Sukriti Kumar Mandal, a Bangladeshi politician. He joins us from Minority Janata Party of Dhaka. Thank you very much, Mr. Mandal, for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Mr. Mandal, what is the situation like in Bangladesh? Is this a common thing that happens during voting in Bangladesh? How do you analyze the current situation of among the voters, among the polling stations and in Bangladesh right now?
I think, this is 13th general election. 13th general election going on. Already 12 is generation gone. Now the situation is, only our another large political party now out of the participation. So The thing is, we thought, I think below 50% vote will be counted. But I visited my various center also. Now the scenario is what I have seen. 60% plus 60 to 70% vote will be counted here. I am now in Jashore area, Jashore district. So there is no problem here. Everybody is going there, participating. Hindu, Muslim, everyone.
Nice.
So
And
the thing is, until now, everything is okay. As I have seen, I did not visit everywhere, but as I have seen,
yes.
the system is okay as a general election.
So,
Okay.
Mr. Mandal, do you think this move by Bangladeshi police in polling station, do you think this has discouraged anyone to join the polling, or what do you think this move, do you think this was necessary there?
I think you are mentioning the police is discouraging. No, this is the rumor. This is the disinformation, misinformation. Police is totally neutral. Police is totally neutral. Here, 7 to 8 lakhs law enforcement agency, including our military also is there. 1 lakh above military is just roaming. They are the strategic force. They are not possessing the magistracy power also. So, as a general election, you know, the only one day, 12 crore 76 lakhs voters are in there. One day, it's very tough. It's very tough. But in Mala,
Yes.
that is happening. This is the history.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Sukriti Kumar Mandal, for joining us from Bangladesh and sharing that insight, on-time insight about Bangladesh. We would also like to welcome retired Major General Gigi Dwivedi. He's a war veteran and also Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies. He joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General Dwivedi, for joining us again. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, looking at Bangladesh, you know, the breaking news that has come in, how do you analyze the situation of, you know, of the voters, and do you think this could have discouraged voters somehow? And also, do you think this was necessary for the police to do such?
Well, the point is,
Yes.
Suma, it's a very delicate situation and a very sensitive issue, because when the voting is taking place, the certain amount of instances are quite expected, because you know all the people who are participating, more than that, the ones who are contesting elections, for them the stakes are very high. So there are two elements: one who are directly involved, contesting elections, those who are representative of various parties, those who are manning the booths, they are the one part. And second is the general public who are voting. But I can understand why the security is quite tight and all precautions have been taken. But please remember the background. First and foremost, there have been number of instances against the minorities. So minorities have that fear that in case they go to vote, will they be secure? Because first and foremost, person is worried about own security, and then you go and cast the vote. And secondly, the minorities like Hindus, they have been traditionally supporting the Awami League, and now Awami League is actually banned from voting. So they directly don't know whom they will be voting for, and in case they go on to cast a vote, will they be safe? So that is a major issue. But these instances definitely have negative impact, because you know one of the BNP contestant has actually met a fatal casualty, and but at the same time, I think one has to take the overview. Overview, it appears the elections so far are going peacefully, but certain instances would take place, are quite expected. But it is very difficult to exactly see what is the mood of general public, especially the minorities, because they are the ones who are very vulnerable. Asuma.
With that, I'd like to thank Major General Dwivedi for joining us and sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, moving on to UK, Britain has pledged hundreds of millions of dollars in new air defenses for Ukraine as Russia's war approaches its fifth year. The UK Defence Ministry says around $200 million will go towards a NATO scheme backed by US President Donald Trump to purchase American weapons for Kyiv. London will also supply 1,000 British-made lightweight missiles worth more than $500 million. Defense Secretary John Healey says allies are more committed than ever to supporting Ukraine. The announcement comes as NATO defense ministers meet in Brussels to discuss increasing military aid. Russia's continued strikes on Ukraine's energy grid have caused widespread power and heating cuts during freezing winter conditions there. Germany's Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has called the attacks terrorism against civilians and said support for Ukraine's self-defense must be ramped up. Now we welcome back retired Major General G.G. Dwivedi. He joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for staying with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, as you know, we see statements, these kind of statements coming in from Europe and European allies of Ukraine. And we have seen a lot this week especially. But do you think that West has already been sidelined in the discussion, and also do you think they have limited capability for supply or supporting Ukraine further?
Well, Asuma, the point is that in this whole peace process between Ukraine and Russia, definitely West have been sidelined, and they really are not on the table. But at the same time, West has obligation to support Ukraine because as far as US is concerned, that they have said that the European nations, the NATO, need to also make contribution. It is not the sole responsibility of US. So therefore, as per the NATO scheme, the countries are coming together. And as you rightly said, that all countries are contributing about $200 million as a central kitty to support Ukraine, acquisition of weapon systems. And Britain has promised $500 million in aid supply of the air defense systems, that is the short-range missile. The point is, Asuma, it has to be realized that Putin is not in favor or not inclined to call off the war. It is now going to be 4 years as of 24th February, because it started on 24th February 2022. And despite President Trump's efforts to call the war off, and he has promised that he will do it in matter of hours or days, it has not actually happened after almost a year plus now that President Trump is in office. So what are the Ukraine's options? What are the NATO's options? Option is to fight on. And therefore, currently what is going on is the aerial warfare, because Russia is pounding the Ukraine cities and other infrastructure with the missiles, with the drones. So therefore, most critical fighting defense weapon today for Ukraine is the air defense. And therefore, these missiles, they are Raven or Greyhawk. These missiles are the ones which are versatile. They can be fired from different modes, and they have the all-weather, means they can be fired at night capability. So I think what Europe and Great Britain or even NATO is doing is that they have to go along. And even if the US support is limited, but they have to do the heavy lifting now. And in fact, it was promised in the last meeting at Brussels that they will be contributing something to the tune of $800 billion to the defense of Ukraine. So I think if President Putin doesn't want to end the war, then Ukraine has no choice to fight the war, and NATO and European countries have no choice but to give right weapons and equipment and support to Ukraine to fight it on. Asuma.
Thank you for highlighting that, Major General. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Moving on to India, the Defence Acquisition Council, chaired by India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, has granted acceptance of necessary for major military procurements, including 114 Rafale multi-role fighter aircraft for the IAF and 6 P-8I maritime patrol aircraft for the Navy. This is India's largest defense procurement deal, focuses on Make in India, with 18 flyaway jets and 96 to be built domestically. As per the reports, the deal includes S-400 air defense systems from Russia, Rafale fighter jets from France with major Make in India push, Scalp long-range missiles with strong Indian industry participation, P-8I maritime patrol aircraft from the US, and a large-scale procurement under various modernization heads. Now for this, we welcome back retired Major General Gigi Dwivedi. He's a war veteran and Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for staying with us. Thank you. But can you tell us the timing of these procurement? Do you think this was on the making for a long time? And also, how important are these to have the Make in India aspect in them, and how significant is that?
Well, Suma, the acquisition of the fighter jet aircraft has been long due. In fact, if you go back by about a decade, in 2015, India had floated request for the acquisition of 114 fighter aircraft. But the point was suddenly the current government cancelled the deal and went in for 36 Rafale from France as government-to-government deal. And as of today, India's fighter aircraft strength is barely 30 squadrons, whereas the minimal requirement is about 42. And in fact, if you evaluate or if you factor the current threat scenario, this requirement would be as high as about 60 squadrons. So I think there was no choice for the government of India now to fast forward this deal because of the criticality of the numbers of the squadrons that we have today. Now, the Rafale was the natural choice. Why? Because we already had purchased or acquired 36 Rafales a couple of years back. I mean, in fact, they are fully operational. That counts to 2 squadrons. And also, we have negotiated for another 26 marine version of the Rafales, which will be on the aircraft carriers. So, therefore, to ensure that we don't diversify our inventory, and please remember, the Rafale is a tried out aircraft, especially during Operation Sindoor. Last May, it took a heavy toll of the Pakistani air bases and also the terrorist infrastructure. So I think the deal has come, though has come late, but there are a couple of issues that are involved with this deal. These 114 aircraft, 18 will be acquired in the flyaway condition, means they will be just bought off the shelf, and remainder 86 will be manufactured in India over a period of next 5 to 7 years. And there also, India's current policy is self-reliance. So therefore, to start with, 30% of the components will be sourced from Indian industry, and later on it will go up to right up to 60. But the whole process is going to take about 7 to 8 years by the time these 114 aircraft are fully integrated into the Indian defense system. And as far as the S-400 is concerned, India had bought 3 batteries of these S-400. 2 were still in the pipeline, which actually are yet to arrive. And also these PI marine surveillance aircraft, India has about 14 of them, and 6 more are required because keep in view the sensitivity of the Indian Ocean region, the threat from the seaboard. So these all are now being fast forwarded. And the last point which I want to make is that India needs to actually also go into a 5th generation aircraft. The AMCA, which is the aircraft which India is working on, is going to take a decade's time. And China today has a 300 5th generation aircraft, that is, and they have J-20. They also have manufacturing J-35. Couple of their squadron will be given to Pakistan. And China has also developed the H-20 stealth bomber, and possibly 6th generation aircraft is also in the making. So this time that India needs to actually fast track is defense preparation, keep in view the threat perception, and I think this deal of the FAL 114 aircraft is actually has come through, though a little late, but I think still it has come through. It will definitely contribute hugely to India's defense capability. Asuma.
With that, I would like to thank Major General Gigi Dividi for joining us and sharing that in-depth analysis and insight with us on NewsX World. Thank you very much. Now moving on to fashion giant Hermes. Hermes chief executive Axel Dumas says he briefly met Jeffrey Epstein in 2013 after the convicted sex offender joined a private workshop visit uninvited. Dumas says Epstein was not on the guest list and attached himself to a group invited by filmmaker Woody Allen and his wife during a visit to Hermes' workshop outside Paris. A photo released in newly unsealed U.S. Justice Department files shows Dumas, Epstein, and Allen together at the event. Dumas says the picture was taken spontaneously and that Epstein later tried to arrange the 3 meetings with him, all of which he declined. He added that Epstein already had a bad reputation at the time. Now we welcome Ms. Alison Mutler. She's a former AP Bureau Chief, joins us live from Bucharest. Thank you very much, Ms. Mutler, for joining us again.
Hello, Asuma.
Hi. Now, this Hermes chief is saying this now, but do you think that he genuinely is saying this, he means this, and also, do you think he could have, told Jeffrey Epstein to leave the workshop if because he wasn't in the guest list?
No, what I think
Yes.
is, unlike other people who've been snared in these Epstein files, is this Hermes person is a little bit more intelligent or less corruptible, in the sense that it's clear that sort of Epstein, from what we're hearing, kind of sneaked his way onto this list. And what is interesting is Hermes saying that he knew he had the bad reputation, which is all the other people who said we had no idea he had a bad reputation, and once we found out, we distanced ourselves from him, we broke off our relations. So what seems to be consistent is there's always a photo. And the photos are taken in order to be used for blackmail. It happens that this blackmail, or to damage somebody's reputation, in this case it's happened after Epstein's death and with this file dump. What I think is he wasn't particularly happy, but of course he, from what he's saying at least, but what we know now is that he snuck onto the guest list. He wasn't particularly happy, and this picture was taken. He doesn't look like he was happy, but that's the kind of picture that espionage do. They use that picture as evidence to be used against the person later. But what is clear is, from what he's saying, is 3 times Epstein tried to contact him and arrange a meeting, and he declined. And he, at least from what he's saying, he does not seem to have been happy that Epstein was there, not necessarily knowing everything about him, although it was, I think, did you say 2013? So he'd already been convicted for some trafficking offences. So he wasn't happy about it. And then, and for that reason, he was cautious enough not to have any further meetings. He did not need, he had a great job, a great position. He did not need any connection with Epstein. We know already that Woody Allen did have his connections. They're both from New York. They were both Jewish. Woody Allen himself has had some, allegations of sexual misdemeanors against him. They had more in common. But probably Epstein said to Woody Allen, "Oh, get me in here. This is another link a relationship I'd like to forge." But it seems that Hermes here was quite smart, that he kept him at a distance. He managed to sort of trick himself to be at that meeting, but afterwards he made sure that relationship did not develop.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ms. Mutler, for sharing that insight with us. Please stay with us as we come back to you. Now we move the focus on to North America. Residents of Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia, in Canada have gathered to mourn the death of 8 victims who were killed in a tragic shooting at the local high school yesterday. The 18-year-old suspect, who had dropped out of the school years ago and struggled with mental health issues, killed 5 children, including her 11-year-old stepbrother. Among the wounded is a 12-year-old girl who is still fighting for her life. The tight-knit community lit candles, comforted each other, and shared their grief. They stood together, remembering the lives lost and beginning the painful journey of healing. Now we welcome back Ms. Alison Mutler. She joins us live from Bucharest. Thank you very much, Ms. Mutler, for staying with us. Now, this heartbreaking news, we still don't know the motives, and so much of it is still covered. How do you think Canada also needs to update their gun policies? As it seems like they hadn't done so in a while, as they'd never really had this many or school shootings as often as US, which is right next to them.
Of course, they'd always assumed they were safe. That's what happens in cases like this. They hadn't really had any school shootings. That was something that happened in the United States, where it's enshrined the right to bear arms, and that is something that has been the case in the United States for a long time. Carrying a weapon is quite normal, whereas Canada is a more peaceful, if you like, country, and shootings were not known. And so it was probably easy for this troubled youngster to get hold of a gun. And as you said, he had some mental issues, and he went on a shooting spree. I mean, nowadays there's so much access to what happens in these shooting sprees and the news about them, that there are these copycat examples, and troubled youngsters or people in general get inspired by other cases that have happened. And if they can easily access a weapon, then it could happen. He seems like kind of tragic person, and it is obviously torn Canada apart. It shocked the nation. These things don't happen in Canada, but particularly because he also killed his stepbrother, and I understand he also killed his mother as well. And as you said, there was a young girl, 12-year-old girl, who's still fighting for her life. But it will raise questions about what the legislation is. How easy is it for a young person, or how easy is it for anyone in Canada to get legal access to firearms? And I think for sure Canada will be taking a long look at this and deciding how to move forward, so this tragic case is not repeated.
Yes, indeed. With that, I'd like to thank Ms. Mutler for joining us today and sharing that insight with us on NewsX World. Thank you very much. We have a breaking news. A drone strike has targeted the Lukoil Ukhta oil refinery in Russia's Komi Republic, setting it ablaze. The refinery, located over 2,000 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, was struck by a drone, causing significant damage. Authorities have issued an early morning warning about the drone attack, which also affected the neighboring cities. Residents were told to stay indoors for safety. Ukhta is a major center for Russia's oil and gas industry, with oil pipelines running through the city from the Nenets region and gas pipelines connected from the Yamal Peninsula, making it an important energy hub. Now we move on to our next news. The search for missing Nancy Guthrie, mother of U.S. news anchor Savannah Guthrie, has entered its 11th day with no major breakthroughs. Authorities are closely examining new evidence, including photos and video footage of a masked individual at her home in Tucson, Arizona. On the night of her disappearance, the FBI has released these images showing the suspect tampering with the door camera. Meanwhile, authorities continue to investigate a series of ransom notes and the possibility that Guthrie's health is in a serious jeopardy. The FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for any information that could help solve this case. Now we move on to EU-China. China has announced it will be reducing tariffs on certain EU dairy products starting on Friday, but will continue to impose anti-subsidy duties of up to 11.7% for the next 5 years. This follows an investigation that concluded certain EU dairy products were subsidized, harming China's domestic dairy industry. The European Union's dairy exports to China had previously been subjected to temporary tariffs ranging from 21.9% to 42.7% since December. The move aims to protect local industries while maintaining some access for EU dairy goods. China's Ministry of Commerce has emphasized that the new duties are in response to unfair trade practices that has affected Chinese producers. Despite the reduction in overall tariff rates, the anti-subsidy measures remain a significant barrier, with many EU exporters concerned about the long-term impact on market access. Now we move on to U.S. The city of Seattle has agreed to pay $29 million to the family of Jahnavi Kandula, a 23-year-old Indian graduate student who was killed by a speeding police vehicle in 2023. Kandula was struck by Officer Kevin Dave, who was driving up to 119 kilometers per hour in a 40-kilometer zone while responding to a call. She later died from her injuries. About $20 million of the settlement will be covered by the city's insurance. The case has sparked international outrage after body camera footage showed another officer joking that Kandula's life had limited value. He was later fired and is suing for wrongful termination. Officer Dave was also dismissed. He was fined for negligent driving, but prosecutors declined to file felony charges. City officials say the settlement brings partial closure to the family of Kandula. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.